rounding decimals. We often get asked to round a decimal, and we have to do that because often we'll get an answer to something that might have lots and lots of decimal places. So if, for example, I do the square root of 2 and push my arrow key to get a decimal answer, this is an irrational number. The decimal places keep going forever and ever. I cannot write it all down if I want a number value for it. So I've got to cut it off somewhere. Now I will lose some accuracy doing that, but not much. It'll be pretty close. So the idea of rounding is just when I have to cut a number off because I've got too many decimal places, I want that to be as accurate as possible. Now I don't need you to write this number line. Please don't, it's okay. But money and a number line are really good ways of seeing why we have to round. Because say, for example, a friend owed you $9.90. That's there on this number line. If it was easier just to give that as a whole number of dollars, you'd be pretty annoyed if they said, well, that's $9, because I'm just cutting off the decimals, the cents, and it's $9, right? On the number line, and logically, we can see that it's much closer to $10. It's only 10 cents away from $10. It's 90 cents away from $9. So when we're rounding, we're asking, well, if I cut off some of the detail, some of those decimal places, which number is it actually closest to? The number, if I just cut it off, 9, or the number one up from that, 10? And the halfway point is when, where we cut things off, the next number is 5. So if we cut it off and the first number that we cut off is less than 5, it's going to be closer to just cutting that number, just 9. If we cut it off and the first number that we cut off is 5 or more, it's going to be closer to not the number that we're left with, but one number up. So rounding means when we don't want all the decimal places, what is the most accurate way to write the approximate number? Sorry, ran out of video there. Now, our steps when we're rounding. Cut off all the numbers after the number of decimal places that you want, and we'll talk about decimal places. So this is our first step. Let's have a look at the questions that go with this and it'll make more sense. Round these numbers to 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places means 2 digits, 2 numbers after the decimal point. 1 decimal place means 1 number after the decimal point. The nearest whole number means no numbers after the decimal point, and so on. The question might often say, round these numbers correct to a certain number of decimal places. And that correct just means check if you're just cutting off the numbers or if you actually should be moving one number further up. So we'll talk about this. My first step is cut off all the numbers after the number of decimal places you want. So 143.8514 to 2 decimal places, cut it off after 2 numbers after the decimal point. 0.00867, 2 digits after the decimal point, cut it off. We'll come back to these ones. Next step, look at the first number we cut off. That's the only one we care about, and we call it the critical digit. And it's a good idea to underline the critical digit, the first number that we cut off when we removed our other decimals. And that number is the one that makes it clear what's the most accurate rounded version of this number. So let's look at our number line with money. If I said I just wanted to give this to a whole dollar amount, so no decimal places, $9.90, I would cut off everything after the decimal point. I would look at the critical digit, the first one that I removed, and that tells me, should I end up closer to 9 or should I end up closer to 10? And the way I can tell is if that critical digit is 5 or more, then my number should be closer to the next number up, actually $10. If my critical digit was 4 or less, then my number should stay as just having cut off all those extra decimals. It's closer to 9 than 10. All the other digits don't matter because everything in here, this has $9.91, $9.92. That all fits, all the way up to $9.99, all fits in this range. It's that first thing we cut off, the 90 cents, that says, hey, we're really close to $10. The following digits, no matter how many they are, don't matter. So let's go back to our steps and write that last step. Follow the rule. If the critical digit is 5 or more, we do what is called rounding up. And rounding up means +1 to the end digit. So we add 1 to the last number that we kept. The last number we kept was 9. We add 1 because it's closer to $10. And the rule, if the critical digit is less than 5, we just cut it off. There's no rounding. You're not ever subtracting a number. You definitely wouldn't ever say that even $9.10 was closer to $8 than $9. You never subtract a number when we're rounding. It's just, do we just cut off the digits, critical digit less than 5, or do I need to add 1 to the last digit I've got? So let's follow these steps in this rounding question. We've cut off all the numbers after the number of decimal places we want. We look at the first number I cut off. Is it 5 or more? No. 1 is not 5 or more, so I just cut off those decimals, and that's 143.85. Sometimes we'd prefer to write that as approximately equal to show that we have rounded, or sometimes we'd like to say in brackets 2dp, 2 decimal places. Or sometimes if the question says to do it, we don't have to do either of those. Look at the first digit, the critical digit after we cut off. Yes, it's 5 or more. So we add 1 to the last digit that we keep. This is 0.01 approximately to 2 decimal places. So the last two questions here. Cut off after the last decimal, after 2 decimal places that we want. Look at the critical digit. Is it 5 or more? Yes, it is. Now, adding 1 to the last digit that we keep is going to get us 10. In which case, we'd have to write down the 0 and carry the 1 to here, because adding 1 here gives me 10. I'd have to add a 1 to there and make that 0. This is 3.90. So it can be tricky when the digit that you're adding 1 to is a 9. Be careful of that. This one here, 0.1853. Cut it off after 2 decimal places. Look at the critical digit. It's 5. 5 or more, we round up. So this will be 0.19. Now sometimes we also want to round roots or recurring decimals, and the extra rule here is get the decimal or expanded version first and write it down. So write these correct to 3 decimal places. That is 0.3 recurring is 0.33333. Write a few decimal places. Then we round it. 3 decimal places cut off after 3 digits after the decimal point. Sorry, it's raining outside. We're getting a lot of background noise. Look at the critical digit. I'm sorry this is such a long video. Not 5 or more, so we just write it as 0.333, approximately equal to. Square root of 2. We got that as a decimal. Write it as a decimal. 1.414213, etc. 3 decimal places. Look at the critical digit. Not 5 or more. We just cut it off. 1.414. 0.6 recurring. Write it in expanded form. Cut it off after the number of decimal places. Look at the critical digit. Yes, it's 5 or more. That is approximately equal to 0.667, and I'll leave it there. Crazy long video, sorry.